I barely remember life before ChatGPT. Over the past 2.5 years, ChatGPT took over most of my life. It's my dietitian, my personal trainer, my therapist, my language coach, my statistics instructor, and my work assistant. Or is he really? Who is assisting who in our relationship? Now, don't get me wrong, ChatGPT is awesome. It knows everything, it can do everything. But what I really valued was not even his knowledge, but it's the fact that no matter how incoherent I am, no matter how much I mistype the words, how scattered the thoughts in my prompts are, he always knows exactly what I mean.
What's the name of that researcher in psych that said that if I force myself too much during the day, then in the evening I can't do anything, and then I know he moved to Australia?
Googling stuff is really effortful in comparison. You need to think of proper keywords, you need to choose what pages are reliable, you need to go through them, and so on. But ChatGPT does not make me work. Our brains evolved to minimize energy expenditure, and thinking is extremely expensive for our body. Choosing not to be thinking when possible is an evolutionary advantage. So I am not surprised that if a tool can help me minimize my thinking, I will give in and think less and less and less. So let's see what's been happening at work for me. In the past year, ChatGPT completely replaced my text editors. I used to write in Ulysses or Notion sometimes, and now I often don't even open them at all. I drop my initial thoughts into the chat, more and more using just the audio, and I ask it to reshuffle my thoughts and complete them. It is convenient, it does a good job, and still it is my work. I gave the chat the input and I guide it. I decide what's in the final edit. He just does some administrative editing, right? Well, recently I realized that I no longer let my brain come to its own insights, like its own conclusions and directions. I jump to the solutions manual at the first mental roadblock. You know, when you would play with an idea in the past, well, maybe you still do that, but I don't. Like, you would play with an idea, a concept, you would leave it till tomorrow, get back to it the next day, and then you'd have this awesome feeling of finally having a sudden insight. I am experiencing none of this anymore. Whenever I feel stuck on an idea, I go, let's see what ChatGPT thinks. But the thinking part of my job was really fun though. Getting to an insight myself and making the connections myself, it was really satisfying, and it felt that by doing that, I was becoming, slowly but surely, but I was becoming a better, more knowledgeable, more capable professional. Don't get me wrong, this is not an anti-ChatGPT rant. Outside of my work, in areas where I have very little knowledge, it's really cool to have the evidence-based information in a very accessible way. I actually learned a ton about exercise, nutrition, hormones in the past 4 months, and all through my chats with ChatGPT over making or eating lunch. But then again, footnote, when I say learn, I mean I memorize some common facts, and I don't necessarily have any deep appreciation of how things work, what influences what. That kind of flexible knowledge appears when you spend a good chunk of time trying to make your way through complex material, and ChatGPT answers are so frictionless if you ask them to be. They're so accessible, they're easy to understand. Just again, it doesn't require me to think to understand something, and we cannot learn in the full sense of this word without ever thinking. So back to my question, who is the assistant in our relationship? Well, I'm thinking the person who does all the smart, complex thinking, who helps you get unstuck when you're stuck. They're the senior one, and the person who always turns for wise advice, follows this advice, they're probably more junior. So it feels to me that by outsourcing difficult thinking to ChatGPT, I am often ChatGPT's assistant. My work is much less interesting because I started more and more doing the assistant's job. I don't challenge myself. I choose to do the easy stuff. And I also think the way I work with ChatGPT is affecting my flow state. You know, me asking questions nonstop in the chat, I think this might actually be a kind of a distraction, but I have not given it enough thought yet. Maybe I can ask ChatGPT, no, but perhaps I will think about it and revisit this in future videos. Anyhow, it is what it is, and it's probably how craftsmen and, you know, skilled manual workers felt during the Industrial Revolution. Making many things before the Industrial Revolution probably required a lot of problem-solving skills and artistry, and certainly it must have been much more satisfying than pushing 5 buttons again and again and again on an assembly line. And yet, we all benefited as a society, right? And I think this is what's happening now as well. So I teach and I literally am able to produce so many more learning materials for my students when I use ChatGPT. It is less fun for me, but I think I am a better instructor to my students because of it. The point is, it's not about a bad or a good technology. Every technology can be used for both ends. I can use a car to get to remote places, but I can also drive around in an otherwise walkable European city with great public transport, sacrificing any organic opportunities to move. So it's always about finding how to use the technology best to kind of amplify what you can do, but minimize whatever adverse effects it can have. So for now, I reinstalled Ulysses and I wrote this entire essay on it. I really resisted the urge to check ChatGPT, which I had a few times, and ask it to generate good examples for my, or arguments for my text or polish it. So this video is completely ChatGPT untouched. But most importantly, I had a really great time thinking about these things. So the joy of creation was definitely back. Of course, I will keep using ChatGPT a lot. I am a better professional in many ways because of it. But also going forward, I think I will try to be more mindful about protecting some areas of my intellectual life. So let me know what's your work relationship with ChatGPT is like, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!